Welcome, good to see you again. Hope you've had a good time. We meet again to discuss and understand what happened almost 100 years ago. Who were the pioneers, 1930s to 1950s? We take up this 20 years which are very crucial to the growth of Kathak in today's discourse. As I was telling you about pioneers are those who show the path not attempted before. They lead us to light, to new ways of doing something. These are people with vision to fulfill a mission, and they are given divine support by history and circumstances to do so. Thus, pioneers are people ordinary in appearance, but with special abilities and mind backed by hard work. Once a form that was long forgotten and got known and established as Kathak, many stars of other forms, most notably Bharatanatyam and Kathakali, did much to learn and promote Kathak and help it reach national acclaim. In this, Bharatanatyam trained Ram Gopal, Kathakali trained Uday Shankar, and pioneers in film like Menka and Sadhana Bose took this form further and can be called pioneers, in addition to the generation that followed their example. It would not be wrong to call Uday Shankar a cult figure of the early 20th century. He was a showman, a creator of magical spectacles, and a dancer par excellence. He was not a trained dancer, so his movements flowed from the heart. He created the Indian ballet scene because nothing like that existed before. Originally a painter, on his museum visits to delve into books, Uday Shankar got fascinated with pictures of sculptures of Hindu gods and goddesses in varied poses. He began imitating the poses. Although unfamiliar with dance techniques, the images provided inspiration to translate into dance movement. On June 20th, 1922, Uday Shankar performed dance for the first time. He generated rhythmic movements with swords and daggers and called it the sword dance. The performance called for congratulations from King George V, who watched it at the Garden City party organized by the League of Mercy. Ballerina Anna Pavlova, who was planning to produce mini ballets on Indian themes, met Uday Shankar on the suggestion of an Indian official, N.C. Sen, and rest, as they say, is history. He dropped painting to concentrate on dance. He choreographed Hindu wedding based on colorful Rajasthani weddings and Krishna and Radha based on purely decorative movements for Pavlova's troupe. Uday as Krishna and Pavlova as Radha first presented the item at Covent Garden, London. Uday toured Europe and USA with Pavlova for 9 months. In 1924, he performed at British Empire exhibition in Wimbledon in his first appearance after leaving Pavlova's troupe. He went to Paris where shows were not forthcoming, so he danced items like sword dance, Nautch, Hindu dance and water carrier in cabarets and revues. His dance partners were Adelaide and Soki, ex-members of Pavlova's troupe, two Italian sisters. It was French woman pianist Simone Barbier, named Sinki, who became his dance partner for the next 20 years. In 1930, Uday returned with Alice Bonner, Swiss painter and sculptor, to India, trained a few people and put together his troupe. His solos, Shiva, Indra, Gandharva and Baiji, had music by Timur Baran. His 1931 tour of France, 1932-33 tour of US and London program in April 33 were a success, but the group disbanded on return to India. In 1938, he toured Europe and US with Zora Mumtaz and her sister Uzra, Kathakali performer Madhavan, Brojo Bihari, Shishir Sovan, Nagin De, and Ustad Alauddin Khan. During the 7 years of continuous travel, Uday Shankar and his troupe presented 889 shows, averaging an astounding one show every 3 days. Back in India, he opened his dream, Uday Shankar Cultural Center at Almora, and married his co-dancer Amala. But in a few years, the dance center folded up in 1944, and his close associates and partners, Zora and Simki, left him forever. Between 1945 and 47, he made his famous film Kalpana in Madras, where he stayed till 1955. He became Dean of Dance at West Bengal State Dance Academy, Drama and Music in 55. He choreographed Tagore's Samanya Shoti in ballet style in 1960 with music by his brother Robi Shankar. He produced Ramalila, a shadow puppet play he had choreographed at Almora. In his second show of this play, based on life of Buddha, he used color slides. In the 1950s, 60s and 70s, a number of dancers worked with Uday Shankar as his troupe members. In 1962-63, impresario Saul Hurok again got Uday touring in USA. Back in India, the Uday Shankar Cultural Center was revived at Kolkata. His daughter Mamata and daughter-in-law Tanushri were initiated into dance at this center. He soon distanced himself from the center and his family and was beset with health problems, despite which he planned his celluloid fantasy, Shankarscope. Uday Shankar brought radical changes in theme, using mortal flesh and blood characters in everyday situations and compelling labor problems. Labor and Machinery was an ode to industrial workers of the world struggling for their rights. Rhythm of Life was another unusual production of the Almora Center. His film Kalpana projected his idea of nationalism, conveyed through India's immense artistic heritage. Shankarscope was a spectacle that transported the viewer into magical realms. Uday dared to be different even in the use of musical instruments for his dance. For the first time, he used over 150 Indian musical instruments of various types and innumerable percussion instruments. There were quite a few firsts in the arena of stagecraft and lighting. Each dance abounded in experimental light play in a manner that demonstrated genius. Quite a few stage devices that became stock in trade for later day stage personalities were actually introduced by Uday Shankar. Today, Uday Shankar is talked about with reverence in terms of creative choreography and path-breaking achievements. Of pioneers, the name Ram Gopal comes to mind. He created traveling dance companies, the likes of which the world, especially Europe, had not seen, although he gave credit for his inspiration to the other light of his times, Uday Shankar, whose example had preceded Ram's for almost a decade. Painters sketched him, sculptors chiseled little figurines of him in movement. The press across the world raved about his performances. They hailed him as India's answer to Nijinsky in the earlier part of the 20th century. From London to New York, Hollywood to Japan, Ram Gopal was one of the earliest to put India on the world dance map. To Indian classical dancers from the flower power generation of the 70s, he was someone who achieved unimaginable heights for an Indian dancer. Ram Gopal was born in 1912 in Bangalore to a Rajput lawyer father and a Burmese mother. Despite parental opposition, he took up dance as a profession after he saw the palace dancers at the famous Mysore Dasara celebrations as a child. Seeing the enthusiasm for dance, he was greatly patronized by the Prince of Mysore. By the end of his teens, Ram Gopal was already the most sought after dance in the Mysore state. He went ahead to take lessons in Kathak from Guru Sohanlal of the Jaipur Gharana, who was settled in Bangalore. Alongside, he began visiting Kerala and training in Kathakali from Guru Kunjukurup at Kalamandalam. He and Mrinalini Swaminathan, later to be Sarabhai, took lessons in Bharatanatyam under legendary Guru Meenakshi Sundaram Pillai. He took elements from each of these dance forms and created his own unique style, which became extremely popular with the Western audiences as Oriental dances. Seeing one of his successful performances, the famous dancer from Russia, La Mary, who was touring South India, invited him to join her entourage in 1936. What would have otherwise been an exciting tour ended with an abrupt halt in Japan. La Mary could not digest the rave reviews and popularity Ram received and decided to dump him midway through the tour. Ram struggled his way back to Bangalore. Establishing his own dance company, he began experimenting with choreography. Several dancers like Tara Chaudhary, Shevanti, and Javanese dancer Retna Mohini joined his dance company. South India's biggest music orchestra, the Saraswati Orchestra, with over 25 members, headed by M.S. Natarajan, provided music to Ram Gopal's dance productions in those years. Invitations came from far and wide. His first dance tours to Europe began soon after. In London, Glasgow, Ireland, and elsewhere, Ram stunned his audiences. Such was the importance given to him in London that he was invited to perform at the inauguration of the Indian section at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London in 1947. In 1955, Ram was the first Indian dancer to perform at the South Bank Centre. Kathak dancer Kumudin Lakhia was part of this historic tour. In the mid-1950s, Ram had a brief stint in Hollywood. He played minor roles in movies like The Purple Plane and William Dithriel's Elephant Walk, for which he also choreographed the dance sequences. He eventually settled down in London. The latter part of 1947 and beginning of 1948 saw Ram Gopal dancing extensively in London and touring the UK. His 4-week season at London's Princess Theatre was sold out every night. Gopal tailored his program to Western audiences by introducing and explaining each dance before its performance. Some of his popular dances were Setting Sun and Garuda, plus many Bharatanatyam items like Natanadinar. He brought dancers trained in Manipuri from India who performed Ranga Puja, blessing the stage, and Surya Puja, offering to the sun. All items were short, varied with solos, some duets, and group choreography. Gopal cherished a vision of East-West collaboration in dance since the days of his first successful performances in 1939 in Britain. Gopal worked closely with the Harlequin Ballet Company and became one of their patrons. He taught the company Indian folk dances, and a few of the dancers joined him for classes. Despite many efforts to establish a school of classical Indian dancing in London, Ram Gopal did not succeed. He was more a performer than a teacher. Gopal's desire for an East-West fusion came to fruition when he and ballerina Alicia Markova presented a duet Radha Krishna as part of a complete dance program in 1960. Residual colonialism continued to reveal itself with his struggles for support and funding. Despite difficulties, his work was to set the scene for further developments in Indian dance education and performance in Britain in the 1970s and 80s. Ram spent his final days in an old age nursing home in London. He donated a few of his costumes, including iconic eagle dance piece, to the Victoria and Albert Museum. Made of soft leather and covered in pure gold leaf, this costume is a sight to behold. It is said that Ram had a special case designed to carry each of the parts of this costume separately when he went on international tours. Several images of Ram seen often ostentatiously dressed, shot by legendary photographers like George Hurrell, Houston Rogers, and Cecil Beaton, continue to capture public imagination. A portrait of his is housed in the National Portrait Gallery in London. Ram wrote his autobiography, Rhythm in Heavens, in the early 1950s. He was also subject of several early books on Indian dance. All of them are out of print today. Leela Roy was born to an English mother and a Bengali father. Those days, dancing was not considered respectable, but her husband, Colonel Sokhi, was supportive. In London, Leela Sokhi met Pavlova and complained that though she had been very keen on learning dancing in India, she could not make any headway. Pavlova immediately assigned Algernoff to teach Leela Sokhi, who was none other than Madame Menka, a name she assumed when she returned to India and took to dance full-time and created a school in Bombay. She adopted Damayanti Joshi and groomed her into a fine dancer. Madam Menka learned Kathak from Sitaram Mishra, Ram Dutt and Lachu Maharaj and created her own style of choreography, adapting its techniques for dramatic purposes. Along with the knowledge of other dance forms in the West and around the world, she created solos, always at dance dramas based on traditional forms. Leela established her own dance troupe in 1934 and started dance classes at her residence. That same year, she staged her first dance drama, Krishna Leela, at the Opera House in Bombay. During her short but packed dance career, other significant new dance dramas that she choreographed and staged were Deva Vijaya Nritya, 1935, Menaka Lasyam, 1938, and Kalai Mardanam and Vidya-mitra, 1939. She discarded traditional Kathak lyrics and took the help of trained musicians to create orchestral ensembles, a break from the traditional way Indian music was played. Thus, her productions were a clever merge of traditionalism and innovation. After founding the Menka Indian Ballet Company, Leela became known as Madame Menaka. Taking advantage of a brief official visit to Geneva, Soki launched his wife's company on a spectacular India tour. Menka and her troupe of dancers and musicians toured India and Europe for 2 years from 1936 January. At Berlin Olympics in July 1936, Menka and her group participated in the Dance Olympiad for 2 days, and for the Deva Vijaya Nritya on the second day, the first 3 prizes were won by Menka, Ram Narayan and Gauri Shankar. This international recognition for Kathak helped boost the popularity of the dance form. Menka was invited to the nascent movie industry, choreographing black and white silent movie productions in Germany and England. Sadhana Bose was a contemporary of Uday Shankar, a classically trained Kathak dancer under Tarakanath Bagchi and Manipuri under Guru Senarik Rajkumar. Sadhana was an actress but danced in the first place, and all her film successes were in dancing roles. She even sang her own song in some of her films, including her first film Ali Baba. An English version of her best-known film Raj Nartaki was distributed in the USA as court dancer. She was so popular as a glamorous heroine of the silver screen in the 30s and 40s that her face appeared for Otain show to enhance its brand value in the market during interwar years. With film often becoming too infrequent, she formed a dance troupe and made all India tours with play like With Her Now, Hunger and others, and met with success. Her battle with the bottle brought her down. After her husband's death, she lived in penury till she got appointed as dance trainer in Calcutta Star Theatre, courtesy Timir Baran. Zohra Sehgal was born into Sunni Muslim Rohilla Pathan family of Rampur, Uttar Pradesh in April 1912. Zohra was a tomboy who enjoyed climbing trees and playing games. In her teens, she saw Uday Shankar perform in Dehradun, and that acted as a turning point of her life. She travelled across India, West Asia and Europe by car with an uncle who was close to her. On her return, a burqa-clad Zohra went to Queen Mary's College, Lahore, a place of higher learning for daughters of aristocratic families. She was the first Indian woman to learn ballet at renowned dancer Mary Wigman's ballet school at Dresden, Germany. Zohra and her sister Uzra joined Uday Shankar's dance troupe and traveled to Japan, West Asia, Europe and America. During this time, she met Kameshwar Sehgal and the couple got married. They first worked in Uday Shankar's Dance Institute at Almora. When it shut down, they migrated to Lahore and founded their own dance institute. However, due to growing communal tension prior to partition of India, they moved to Bombay, where Zohra worked as an actress in Indian People's Theatre Association or IPTA and Prithviraj Kapoor's theatre for 14 years. Zohra acted on the stage in different parts of India, including plays performed for jail inmates. After her husband's suicide in 1959, Zohra moved to Delhi and became director of newly founded Natya Academy. She then moved to London on a drama scholarship in 1962. Here she met Ram Gopal and from 1963 worked as a teacher at a school in Chelsea during the short period of its existence. She has acted in films The Courtesans of Bombay, The Jewel in the Crown, The Raj Quartet, Tandoori Nights, My Beautiful Laundrette, Bhaji on the Beach, Bend It Like Beckham, etc. In India, she became well known after she appeared on TV series Mullah Nasruddin. She appeared in numerous Bollywood films as a character actress in the career spanning of 60 years. After returning to India in mid-1990s, she added poetry reading performances to her presentations. In 1993, acclaimed play Ek Thi Nani was staged in Lahore for the first time, featuring Zora and her sister Uzra Butt. Its English version, A Granny for All Seasons, was held at UCLA in 2001. From 1996, she appeared frequently in high-budget Hindi films. Zora lived into ripe old age of 102. In 2012, her daughter Kiran Sehgal wrote Zora Sehgal's biography titled Zora Sehgal, Fatty. Sitara Devi represented a lost age when Kathak used to be performed for the whole night. She trained under her father Pandit Sukhdev Maharaj of Banaras Gharana and Lucknow Gharana and combined both elements. Her father, a Kathak exponent, decided to give religious inputs to the content, which was quite different from the content used by the Nautch girls. He opened a dance school in Varanasi and taught Kathak to his daughters, sons and other children. By the time Sitara had turned 10, she was giving solo performances. When she was 11, the family moved to Bombay. There she platformed at Atiya Begum Palace before a select audience, which included Tagore. Impressed, Tagore, the great poet, invited her to give a special performance in Tata Palace of the Tata Group, where Sitara performed Kathak, with all its nuances for 3 hours. Tagore described her as Nritya Samragini, meaning the Empress of Dance, after watching her performance when she was 16 years old. From when she was 12, Sitara Devi performed dance sequences in Hindi movies like debut in Usha Haran 1940, Nagina 1951, Roti and Watan in 1954, Anjali in 1957. In Mother India 1957, she performed a holy dance dressed as a boy. After that, she stopped performing dances in movies to concentrate on Kathak. She taught Kathak to many Bollywood celebrities like Madhubala, Rekha, Mala Sinha and Kajol. In her choreographies, she drew from the treasure trove of themes, poetry and choreography collected by her father and drew inspiration from the environment around her. Her family had devoted their life for 4 generations to development of Kathak. During the lifetime of her father, Kathak regained its lost glory and emerged as an important pillar of Indian dancing. Sitara Devi continued the tradition and contributed immensely to the development and popularity of this art form during her career spanning more than 6 decades. The Kathak Queen passed away aged 94 on November 25, 2014.